Democratic Congressman Krishnamoorthi of Illinois, a member of the Intelligence Committee. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. Do you have any reservations, first of all, about letting Mueller's deputy, Aaron Zebley, testify alongside him?
My understanding is that he's not going to necessarily testify, but he'll be there so that Robert Mueller can, occasionally seek his advice. But I hope that, we're not going to be interrupted by consultations as much as Mr. Mueller has a chance to kind of speak his mind, tell us what's in the report and why it matters.
Will Aaron Zebley be formally sworn in as a witness, or will he just sit there as an aide to the former special counsel and whisper in his ear from time to time?
I'm not sure. I think that's being hashed out right now, although it appears that he will be at least accessible to Mr. Mueller.
Your colleagues on the House Judiciary Committee plan to focus their questions on issues surrounding potential obstruction of justice by the president. Your committee, the Intelligence Committee, is going to focus in on Russian interference in the 2016 election. What's the biggest question you have for the former special counsel on that front?
I have several questions, but I think the biggest question is, what did he find and what does it matter, especially with regard to the Trump campaign having advanced knowledge of this interference that was about to happen in 2016, then welcoming it, then using the product of that interference, having numerous contacts with Russians, which they didn't report to the FBI or law enforcement, and then finally covering it up. And so we'll be asking Mr. Mueller about all those things. Plus, did he look at the counterintelligence aspects of the links, the 140-plus links between the Trump campaign and Russia, even if it didn't amount to a criminal conspiracy?
Because, as you know, the Mueller report concluded on this sensitive issue of collusion, whatever you want to call it. He doesn't use the word collusion. Mueller's report said the evidence was not sufficient to charge that any member of the Trump campaign conspired or coordinated with representatives of the Russian government to interfere in the 2016 election. That's a significant statement, which I assume Mueller is going to repeat tomorrow.
He will likely do that. But on the other hand, there were so many links. Just take one example, Trump Tower, Moscow, where the president repeatedly said he had nothing to do with Russia. Meanwhile, Michael Cohen, his personal attorney, was negotiating a deal to build the Trump Tower in Moscow. And the reason why that's significant is that if the Russians know that the president is not telling the truth, they can use that information to compromise him. And that's very serious, and that is the source of counterintelligence concerns in this investigation.
The Department of Justice has instructed Mueller to stick to his report, the 448-page report. Will that significantly impact the questions that you guys, the lawmakers, will ask Mueller?
Well, as you know, he's not necessarily confined to that report, despite what DOJ is asking, and we are not necessarily confined in asking questions. That being said, I think that we will be very happy to hear him talk about what's in the report, because him giving voice to those findings will likely be the first time that much of the audience who has not read the report will actually hear what it's about. As you know, this is kind of like, a lot more people have seen the movie Godfather rather than read the book.
Should Mueller ignore those instructions from the Justice Department?
I think that, look, he is a man of high integrity and honor. He's a patriot. I think he has to do what's right. If the Justice Department and Bill Barr are somehow instructing him not to talk about certain things, even though he should talk about them at the hearing, then he should do what's right and answer the questions, because at the end of the day, this is about protecting our country and our national security as well.
88 Democrats so far in the House support beginning formal impeachment proceedings against the president. You're not among them. Could Mueller's testimony tomorrow change your mind?
Possibly. He's one person who commands a tremendous amount of stature and credibility. And depending on what he says, a lot of people's minds could be changed tomorrow. And so that's why I think tomorrow's hearing is so important. And that's why I think so many people are going to watch it as well.
Some Democrats hope Mueller's testimony will certainly bring his report to life, as you say. But do you worry Congressman, it could backfire and instead give the president potentially fresh ammunition that the investigation is over and it's time for the country to move on?
I don't think so. I think that the conclusions of the report were so significant, and such a small portion of the country has actually read the report, that I think tomorrow it's going to be about educating the public, and I think a lot more people are going to understand the import and the significance of what he found, and hopefully that will be an impetus for action as well in protecting our 2020 elections from similar interference by Russia and our other adversaries.
We'll, of course, have special coverage all day tomorrow. Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi.